I have to like say that because a lot of people are like blaming Tommy for my like lack of uploads. No, she has been so supportive.
Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we are going to be talking about co-host Amberlynn Reid. We haven't talked about Amberlynn in a while. She's actually been gone on YouTube at least, and people have been kind of wondering where she is and speculating. And so she actually uploaded this video very, very recently where it is called We Need to Talk, and she kind of goes over where she's been. If you don't know kind of the lore, recently Amberlynn has, a lot of people think that she has basically moved, but for right now it's a long trip. She took a long trip from, I believe she lives in Oklahoma, to Wisconsin to live with her girlfriend for a while. We don't know how long. And once she kind of got up there, the videos seemed to slow down a little bit, so people had something to say. But Amberlynn came back in this video and has kind of updated where she's been and why she's gone. People obviously have their theories, and we're going to skip through a little bit of this because some of it has nothing to do with what I want to talk about. But without further ado, Amberlynn, take it away.
I feel like there's so much that I need to like explain and talk to you guys about, and it's just like too much to do in one video. So I don't know. I need to make a list, like not me looking around for a piece of paper. I need to make like a list and just write down, okay, so I need to talk about these points. I should do them in these specific videos because it's just a lot. It's just a lot. I think specifically for this video, like I shouldn't have to explain that I'm having mental health issues. I really am. And I look back at a year ago, and I was also having pretty bad mental health issues around this time of year. I like to reflect. I'm very much a reflector, and I think that's why I do a lot of journaling. I reflect. I like to understand the way I feel. I don't know. It's just, maybe it's because I grew up in and out of like group homes, children's shelters, and very much when you're in that setting, they love a good like, let's express ourselves. Let's sit in a group, go around in a circle and express yourself. So I grew up expressing myself a lot. I grew up with so many therapists, like, because when you're in foster care, like that's what you do. Like you're almost obligated to see somebody on the constant.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I don't have any issue so far. I think that these are good things to do, reflect, and then, like, I was in foster care for a very short amount of time, so I don't really remember what it was like in there, because when I was taken away from my mom from CPS, and then we were put into this place called Polinsky, which is like a foster care system, and then thankfully, luckily, we got put with our uncle, and we were there for like a year, so I don't really have, you know, I don't have any anecdotes that I can share when it comes to being in foster care, because I was pretty young, but you know, all of these things, these are probably healthy habits to have, right? And so, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say anything about them, really.
And so I'm very accustomed to expressing myself, but like, I'm not very accustomed to people actually caring. And that's like the sad reality. Like, there are good foster parents out there. There are good foster situations and group homes. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was in a good group home. Like, it was an all-girls group home. I was there for about 2 years. And still to this day, there are girls that I lived with there that I still communicate with, and staff members. That was a good point in my life. It truly was.
And so, like, with that, I think, like, I can understand that feeling and the frustration of feeling like you're not being listened to or people don't care. But at the end of the day, I think with the self-reflection, the thing that's most important is that you genuinely are thinking, why am I doing the thing that I'm doing? Why is this thing making me feel this way? The most important thing is not having someone tell you, right? Like, this is why you feel that way, or this is the thing that you need to do to fix that problem. I think where a lot of the power comes in is from you self-reflecting and thinking about, oh, that was a mistake that I have made, right? And I think, like, where a lot of people with Amberlynn especially, they struggle with like hearing this type of rhetoric, I guess you could say, is that Amberlynn is absolutely known, and I don't think she would even disagree with this, absolutely known for, you know, living in cycles and doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting different results. And I think that that's what we're seeing right now, just as far as the fact that Amberlynn, you know, got into a new relationship, you know, things escalated incredibly quickly. She's basically living with this person again right? This new person, she's basically living there. Again, we don't know for sure, but she's been there for an extended period of time, and they're in a new relationship. There's so many things that are changing, and so many things you have to like understand, and that you might not know about this person that you're going to find out about. And there's just a lot of change. And then to expect yourself to vlog and film in that environment, I think is not fair to you, not fair to your partner, and a silly thing to just think that it's going to work out and that everyone is going to be okay with it. Like, that's something that I would never do. I would never move in with someone that I've only known for a short period of time and then also be like, I'm also going to be filming every single day, right? Like, I don't know, at least for me, and I'm someone that's been doing YouTube for 10 years, right? Like, that's not something I would ever want to do. That sounds so unappealing. So it's not at all a surprise in my mind that she has kind of disappeared, because regardless of what she will say in this video, bringing a camera around all the time to a new relationship, not the vibe for sure.
At the children's shelter, no. I had fun times there. It was like a slumber party constantly. But the staff there, they didn't care. It didn't feel like they cared. They were there to make their money, and that was that. So it's like, yeah, I was taught to express myself, but no one ever heard me. No one ever was actually listening or caring. And that's just like kind of how I feel too sometimes with like YouTube, is like I'll sit here and
So I think like I know I'm interrupting a lot, but these reflections are good things to do, and they are important. But at the end of the day, like, you have to understand that life has moved on, and then you, like, while it's good to maybe think about why did this thing, sorry about the fly, I can't freaking get it out of here, so it is what it is. But like, instead of thinking about like, oh, this is the reason why this is, like, it's good to maybe think about that. But at the end of the day, like, dwelling on it and being like, well, that's just how things are, is not beneficial for anyone involved, right? Like, that's not going to change anything for you in the future. And so, like, while it's good to acknowledge that this is why you might feel this way, understand that just that acknowledgement is not going to make any change, right? You have to still make a change, make an effort, right?
Express and explain. And it's like, is anyone actually listening? Is anyone actually hearing me? I reflect back to a year ago, and I was turning to alcohol, and I was living on my own for the first time. It was just like a lot, and it was heavy, and I was turning to alcohol thinking that's what was going to make me feel better. And I was just really depressed, and like I would come on YouTube, and sometimes I would share that, or sometimes I would just like have a fake persona, because I think
I speak for most people that it was pretty easy to see through that, and it was pretty obvious to most people watching that the alcohol was becoming a problem, and definitely not a solution that was going to be beneficial in the long run, right?
I didn't want to be that person that would constantly come on here and be like, I'm depressed, I'm sad, look at me cry, look at me have a mental breakdown. And I've done that a lot on YouTube, where I'm just fully transparent and I cry. I open up about my anxieties. What was it that I said that people really like to bring up? Mental things is scary. In that clip, I was having so much anxiety that like the world was just heavy on my chest. And that's just a prime example of like times where I really did come on here and just like, I let it all out. And
so this is I feel like this is pretty common for someone that's been on YouTube for a long time. Like, it seems like she feels that she has to be honest about exactly everything that she's going through in the moment. And I don't know, maybe this is a hot take, but I feel like it is okay to fight those battles on your own, especially if you're not in a position where you can be like, hey, I'm going to share this, but like I've moved through it. Like, if instead of just trying to, this might sound mean, but like, instead of just trying to like trauma dump on YouTube and expect that to be some sort of answer, right? Like, it's one thing to talk about your problems and try and work through them, but it's another thing to just think that, oh, I dumped this all on YouTube, now everything should be better and everyone should understand. At some point, you have to understand, Amberlynn, that like a lot of the people watching your videos and just in general, you're giving ammunition where if you don't want to do that, just don't share it, right? Like, if you're going through something, it's okay to not post on YouTube. You yourself are the one that is putting this arbitrary like, I have to post, I have to put this stuff up, I have to do this, right? You don't have to, right? I mean, if you have to make money, yeah, you have to, but like, you don't have to. It's not the end of the world if you don't, right? It's not the end of the world if instead of doing a vlog, you just do a video that isn't about your entire day and it's just a very focused video. Like, if there's ways to work around if your like daily life is not the greatest, or even if you don't feel like vlogging, because I mean, it's the reason I don't vlog is because I don't have much to share and I think it would be pretty boring, and so I don't do it, right? So I've found other ways to make content. There's that, like, that's something that you could do, right? You don't have to vlog if you feel like your life isn't interesting enough. Like, there are ways to work through this, and just like talking about it on YouTube is not, in my opinion, like the answer that's going to solve it, right?
And I told myself that I wasn't going to do that this time, because when I do that, like, it's never, I'm not going to say never. I talk in a lot of absolutes, and I need to learn how not to do that, because not everything is an absolute. It's just how it is. There is always like a gray area in most situations. I was about to say, like, I was never met with like kind ears. I was never speaking to kind hearts. But that's not true. There are a lot of you who do watch me and care about me. And those people, like, I appreciate you more than you know.
So I think that there was, basically, it's like, it started with a lot of people that, you know, really cared or like really understood and really tried to help. But then as, again, the cycle has continued over and over and over and over and over again, more and more people are like, dude, I'm kind of fed up with this. Like, it doesn't seem like there's any change. It doesn't seem like there is anything that is different, right? Like, it doesn't seem like there's been any progress towards any of the goals that Amberlynn has set for herself. And then it's like, if you're someone that starts to point that out and is like, hey, you know, you said this many years ago you wanted to do this, or like all of these things, you're labeled as a hater, right? And so I think that that's kind of like, that explains a lot of the pipeline, right? It's people that come like, oh, I want to support, you know, I want to see you lose weight, and you know, I can see that you're trying, and I don't get why people are so mad. And then after a while, you're like, oh, okay, well, she said she was going to do this a month ago. She said she was going to do this 3 years ago. You know, and then you just start to like, okay, I don't really believe this. And you start to point things out. You start to notice things. And then the cycle continues, right? The cycle continues.
And I hear you and I see you, but sometimes it's so hard through all the noise. And that's just reality. It's truly reality. So I told myself this time, like, okay, Amberlynn, you feel yourself slowly getting into a weird, depressed headspace. And normally I would share that with YouTube. And I told myself, I'm just going to disappear instead. And I shouldn't have done that.
I mean, I don't know. If that's what you want to do, you can do that. You don't, like, to saying I shouldn't have done that. Why? If that's what you wanted to do in the moment, there's nothing wrong with that.
I know I shouldn't have. A lot of you were worried. And I think that's why I went on to Instagram, is because, like, I felt bad, because it's like, I upload pretty frequently, and I'm part of people's routines, whether for good or bad. And it's just like, I just disappeared.
This is the thing with content creators that I think is important to notice and realize, is that, like, you might feel like in your head, everything you think about is YouTube in your video, and the next thing you're going to upload and the next thing that you're going to do. But the vast majority of people that watch your channel are people that are going to watch the channel for however long the video is and then move on with their day and not really think much about it for the rest of the day, right? So you spent maybe this video is 20 minutes long with them, and then they've moved on, right? Amberlynn maybe is a little bit of a special subject because there are a lot of people that talk about her on a lot of other places that aren't YouTube, but the vast majority of people that are coming through, like, they're not spending a ton of time and energy thinking about what you're doing. And I don't see that as a negative. That is just life, right? People that watch my videos, they're not like, oh, I wonder what John's doing. Let me check up on his Instagram. Let me check up on his whatever. Like, let me follow it's just not how it is, right? And that's fine. That's works for me. Like, that's not a problem. I understand that, like, people don't care that much. That might sound like bad, but I see it as a way for me to ground myself and realize that all of these stresses and these things that I'm thinking about, at the end of the day, you don't need to worry about it that much. You are turning it into a bigger thing than it really is, right? That's just my opinion, though.
And I think what might have also triggered it so hard is, like, I have been in, like, a high, you know, when you first fall in love and like things are so good and you're like going out and you're hanging out with friends and you're doing things that like you don't normally do, and you're just like literally having the time of your life and you're so happy, and like mental health like takes away that like high, that super high happiness.
So maybe, but also it just sounds like the honeymoon phase has kind of ended, which is very normal in a relationship. And especially, I feel like this is probably very common in stuff like with Amberlynn, where she moves so fast into something where she's basically living with this person like immediately. That feeling of like that high wearing off it can be very like, it can be very intense, right? And you start to take stock of like, oh my God, I'm in a completely different state. I'm doing completely different things. The vast majority of people that are around me, I don't know them. You know, I left everything behind. You start to realize, oh my goodness, right? Like there's a lot of change that is happening, and I'm not sure if I'm really comfortable with that. And then you start to feel bad about the fact that maybe you're feeling bad about not being super excited about this relationship, and you start to doubt yourself, and you start to think like, is it wrong of me to not be as excited as this other person is? And did I make a huge mistake? Like, that's a lot of stuff that happens, right? When you make such huge changes with, it seems like not much thought, right?
And just like that great feeling. When that was taken from me, it was like I hit like a rock. I hit like a bottom. And I have done so much crying. Like I am with Tommy. I am with someone that I love. But I feel so depressed. And it's like, it's not fair, because it's like, I'm getting people on Instagram, because I was doing these Q&As on there. I was getting people on there saying like, if you're so happy with Tommy, then why are you depressed? Two things can coexist at the same time. I just feel like mental health isn't black and white. And it was just easier for me to like live without filming my life for thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
So those things can obviously be true at the same time, but I think it is silly to be surprised that people would make those correlations, because again, time and time again, we have seen this cycle play out, right? And that's really important.
It felt safer to me to just disappear. And I do slowly feel myself getting like out of this like weird depressed headspace. I do feel that. And it's just like I have BPD, and that's been like hectic on like, it's just been hectic. It's not fair that like I have these things while I'm trying to just like be happy and just live. Like it's not fair. And there's only really one thing I can do, and that is go to therapy. For some reason, I'm so scared to go to therapy for like BPD.
I just don't like, I understand like being scared. I understand this, but like the thing that I don't understand is, what is the point of sharing this on a video where you know people are just like, I don't understand it. Like, this isn't therapy, right? Like, the best thing to do is if you know that that's the answer, that's what you should do. And that might, I don't know, maybe that's like kind of cold hearted, but it's like, what do you want people to say? What do you want people to do here? What are you expecting out of this video? What is the expectation here? Because if people agree with you, yes, you should go to therapy, I feel like that people are like, oh, you're being mean. Or if what people are going to say, no, don't go to therapy. Like, I just don't, I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but something about it really freaking scares me. And I think it's because it's like, it's almost as if it's like truly, truly confirming. Like, Amberlynn, you got the BPD. It's like, yeah, I was diagnosed. I experience BPD things almost daily. I feel it. I'm aware. Like, I'm cognizant of it, and I have to deal with it. But it's like going to therapy for it, like having to like stare at it, talk about it. It's just surreal, and it's not something I want to do, not something I want to experience, but it's like, that doesn't matter. It's something that I have to do.
Yep. So do it. If it's something you want to do, then just do it.
And I'm not sure when I'm going to be doing it, but it has to happen because I don't know. Is this seasonal depression? Now I don't know. Mental health is like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's not always understood. And I'm telling you guys, I have had some breakdowns, like true breakdowns.
And like at the end of the day, you don't have to share this information, right? Like this is not information I need to know. This is not information other people on the internet need to know. This is stuff that you have decided to share. And so like people are going to have opinions on it, and then that's probably not going to make you very happy. And so the best, and I always say this, the best way to solve that is to not share this stuff. I think that, and it's like, oh, I want to share my life. I think there are ways that you can share your life, shoot videos, vlog, whatever, make videos on YouTube and not share every single aspect, especially if doing that causes you a lot of pain and anguish. Don't do it anymore, right? Will this advice be taken? Of course not, but that's how I feel.
And this is exactly how I felt a year ago. Like, I don't know if it's like the change in weather, because there is a such thing as like seasonal depression. I don't know if that's like what's happening to me. I don't know. I know that like, I don't want to be medicated. I don't want to be medicated. I was medicated for majority of my life. Again, because in foster care, like I was diagnosed with depression at the age of 9 and put on Prozac. Like that's crazy. Like 9-year-olds should not ever have to deal with that.
I mean, yeah, I agree. That's pretty crazy.
So I've been in and out of medicine my whole life, and I was taking Lamictal for 5 years because I was diagnosed bipolar years and years ago. So I was taking Lamictal for that, and I don't ever want to be put on medicine. So it's like with BPD and seasonal depression, like I know some people take meds for seasonal depression. I get that. Me, I kind of just like wing it. And instead of like complaining about it, I just disappeared because I knew that's what was going to happen. I was going to come on here and be like, I am so fucking happy with Tommy, but I am depressed because I am going through a depression that I seem to go through every single year. And then with BPD, it's like, there are medicines that can like.
So you said that I would do that, but that's like, that's what she's doing right now. I don't know. Okay.
Help with like your mood. Like there's nothing that can like heal a BPD. Like you're not going to like be healed with medicine. It's not going to happen. I will say that like Lamictal did help with my BPD as well. I'm not going to lie. But I don't want to be medicated. And I think that's a personal choice, and that's okay. So it's easier for me to say I don't want to be medicated. So I don't have the, what am I going to say? I don't have the option to complain, which I really do. It's like, it's no one's fault that they have mental illness. It's no one's fault. And I think that being medicated should be an option.
So with this line of thinking, I don't necessarily disagree with her, but I want to bring up one of my favorite kind of points that I've heard over the years, and it's the idea of fault versus responsibility. While it might not be your fault, Amberlynn, that you have these conditions and that you're suffering through them, it is your responsibility, especially at this point, right? We're both over 30. It is your responsibility to make a significant change in your life if you want to see something change, right? Like you have to make decisions and make moves if you want to see that serious change. Like, and this might sound mean, and I'm just trying to be honest, coming on YouTube and complaining about it on a video is not the thing that you need to do. There are a lot of other steps that you can take that will not be filmed, that probably should never be filmed, right? The therapy sessions, or maybe taking medication. I don't know. Clearly, it doesn't seem like that's something that you want to do, which is fine. That is your choice, right? But there are things that you can do that have nothing to do with YouTube that could probably drastically improve the place that you are in life. And I genuinely feel that one of those things is diet and exercise and trying to lose weight, because I think that the situation that you're in right now is very dire, and it's a serious situation. And I think taking care of your health would be such a huge catalyst to so many of the other things that you are struggling with. And I mean this in the nicest way possible. I am not trying to be hateful, but one thing I noticed when I watched this video, because I did watch the whole thing before we recorded this, is that there is no mention about diet, exercise, weight loss. And I'm not going to say that that would solve all the problems. That would be stupid. But it's like, to not even mention it when you're talking about all these solutions and things that you need to get together shows me that it is so far from the forefront of your mind that it's not even mentioned, not even something that you're thinking about. And I feel like that's a problem, because the videos before this, you were talking so much about how Tommy's, trying to get you to go on GLP-1 medications, and she was even going to go on with you. And now it's like that doesn't exist anymore. And I feel like completely just deleting that from the conversation is not good.
Because that is serious, and I don't like medicine. You guys know that. But what I do have an option is therapy. So with BPD, therapy can very much be the main thing that helps with people with BPD. It's DBT therapy. I need to do it. Everyone and their mama and their uncle recommends it to me, and I need to just go for it. But I want you guys to know that, like, I haven't been not uploading because I'm lazy or because I don't care about you guys or because of anything like that. It started as like, okay, I'm gonna spend some time with Tommy, even though in the back of my mind, like, I slowly felt this depression coming, and it happens every year. I have to be like very cognizant of that. I have to like say that, because a lot of people are like blaming Tommy for my like lack of uploads. No, she has been so supportive, and she's just like, she understands that I need a break, but she's also like very encouraging when it comes to like things that I enjoy and love. And she knows that I love YouTube.
So if we look at the comments of this video, right? Amber, this isn't seasonal depression. This is the high wearing off of you, and you need to be single and focus on your mental health. World's shortest honeymoon period. Sorry, I couldn't sit through that. My therapist once said the victim chair is very comfortable. I can understand that. You're depressed because you don't love her and the euphoria of the new relationship has worn off, but you won't listen to anything you don't want to hear, and the result is you continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, right? And so one thing that I have noticed with Amberlynn is that a lot of times it's interesting, because the people that will be saying these comments, maybe at the time it might seem mean, but then we'll fast forward a year, and then Amberlynn will basically be parroting those comments and saying this is what was going on, right? It's the same thing with the alcohol thing that she mentioned earlier. Last year I was struggling with alcohol, and people were like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be drinking as much. And then that was seen as like, that was seen as a negative, and that's what people were saying. I think like for there's no reason to watch the rest of the video. A lot of it is very repetitive, but I think like at the end of the day, I think that you really need to look at that relationship and the insane change that you have made and think to yourself, was that something that is beneficial for me in the long term? And understand that just talking about doing these things that you want to do is not the same as actually doing them. At the end of the day, if therapy is something that you want to do it. Don't just talk about it on YouTube and try and satisfy what people are maybe saying you should do, right? You need to do those things. But also, and at least most importantly for me, really put your health first. That will, I'm not saying it'll solve things, but it will help. Like taking care of yourself. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that, but physical is a big part of it. And for it not to be mentioned in a video like this, for me, feels like a red flag. I'm curious what y'all think down in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.